Since before Confederation, Canadian politics was rife with corruption and elitism. In the early 19th century, there was the Family Compact in Upper Canada and the Château Clique in Lower Canada. And while these were basically British Tories, the line of elitism and cronyism quickly branched out to the Liberal Party. But never, in recent history, has the corruption in Canada reached the heights that it has under the leadership of Justin Trudeau. And numerous ethics violations, numerous scandals, all have led to what is perhaps the most egregious personal corruption scandal in living memory, the We Foundation scandal. And here to discuss the latest cronyism of Justin Trudeau and his Liberal government is Western University's Professor Emeritus Salim Mansour. Hello, Salim.
Hello, Robert.
What do you make? Yes, it's my pleasure, as always. What do you make of the Liberal Party's latest venture into the swamp?
Well, I mean, the latest scandal about the We charity, I think more than ever establishes that we in Canada have our own swamp as what it is. Now we know in US politics that President Trump announced that he would try to drain, but the swamp is very deep and very wide. And in the Canadian case, we are a much smaller country, and our elite, as you in your opening remark has pointed out, elite politics go back way before the Dominion was founded in 1867. And this elite compact, the family compact, has morphed into what we might say the Laurentian elite, which is based in central Canada, in the triangle, Montreal, Ottawa, and Toronto. And the connection is among family, marriage, education, and of course money, and the interlocking business and commercial interests. So that's the background that in your opening remark. But what the We scandal now demonstrate, as we explore it further, is, can we say that we are now a country run by a crime syndicate, which what Ezra Levant has pointed out or named the Libranos, that indeed this is, I mean, how much more can we dig deeper and point out that here we have a scandal with the Prime Minister and his family deeply involved in the muck, including senior members of the cabinet, the Finance Minister, the National Revenue Minister, and others. And so this is the family compact of the 21st century that we are witnessing, that the government and the cabinet has the audacity to go forward in giving out a contract without proper investigation into the people with whom the government was making the contract.
I wonder if they didn't do that, like they said during the testimonies, that due diligence, because since they own the media, the likelihood of them getting caught would have been diminished severely. So they, I think, are reaching a plateau of hubris where they think that they can do anything without detection, and if it is detected by one of their media party people, then they can be rest assured almost that they will not be exposed. Now that they have been exposed, we have seen some media articles, even from the CBC, that have probed a little deeper into this. But do you think that could be the case, Salim, that maybe they did their due diligence, maybe they did know what they were getting into and just lied about it?
Well, we know that the media was bought over before the last election in October 2019, going back a year. I mean, that was again such a blatant move buying out the Canadian media for $600 million and what more. And of course, the passage and the interlocking connection between media personality and politics, that's a given. That's been happening both in the United States and in Canada. The circular door where people from the media can go into politics and then back to the media in shaping and changing. The most egregious one happened in the previous Harper government, if you recall. Mike Duffy, Pamela Wallen being appointed as senators, and the scandal behind those appointments. And same thing is with the Liberals. So that's the incestuous circle of the media, and the media has abandoned, Robert, any even in terms of facade or charade of being a fourth estate. The media has become simply the arm of, in the case of the United States, the Democratic Party is 95% of the media is hostile to the conservative, the Republicans, and particularly to President Trump in the United States. And the same holds true in Canada. When it comes to the liberal scandals and the liberal corruption, the media is only around the edges and on the surface that it cannot put aside, but it will not dig deep. And that's where we come to the we issue. It is not going to dig deep. I mean, how is it that this came about? What is the family connection between the Trudeau family, Justin Trudeau, his wife, his mother, his brother, who have all been paid out substantive amount of money in whatever form and with whatever reason, but the money was paid out to the family of the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister did not recuse himself from awarding a very substantive contract to the We Charity. Now, what does the We Charity stand for? Who are these people? The two brothers, they are young, they are in their 30s, I believe. Mark Kielburger and Craig Kielburger. And they have created this international organization, Canada-based, with connection that reaches out into the most elite personalities and celebrities and politicians in the Western world, in the United States, in Britain, and of course in Canada. How did that come about? You know, what was the connection that was made? You know, for instance, what is the connection of the Kielburger brothers with people like Oprah Winfrey or Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, or the Clintons, or actresses and actors like Mia Farrow and Harvey Weinstein, or the Dalai Lama? These are, I mean, issues that if the media was truly a fourth estate representing the people and people's interests, and standing as a watchdog over the for the people, over the government, demanding transparency and accountability, then the media would be digging deep into this information, and it would not be left to people like you and me to talk about it, you know. And we can only talk about it in terms of what is in the public domain. So here you have two brothers engaged in a worldwide charity operation, ostensibly to save young children from the abuse that the young children face in places like Pakistan, Afghanistan, India, Nepal, Bangladesh, other Southeast Asian countries, from child labor to the most heinous, ultimately, sexual abuse. And we do not have enough information about what actually these folks have been doing up there, you know, except for public consumption, that they broadcast the most interesting stories to strike at the heart of the Canadian public and get them to donate money, you know.
And something that comes to mind, Salim, that pops right into your mind is, first of all, it sounds like they're doing good work. I mean, who could be for child slavery, for example? However, I think that they gloss over the fact that in some poor countries, sometimes if children don't work, they starve. But leave that aside for the moment. What you were talking about, what is the connection between all of these famous people, the Liberal government and the We Foundation, the We Charity? Because there's a number of different We shell companies and corporations that are hiding a lot of this money, if you ask me. One of the underlying fundamental characteristics is their political ideology. If you read some of the material that they're putting into our school systems here in Ontario and the rest of Canada, perhaps even the world, is that they are progressivists, they are social justice warriors, they are extreme leftists. That is, and I mean that in that sense, the extreme leftists. They have no truck or trade with conservatives. They have actually, if I'm not mistaken, besmirched the Harper government when they were around. And so not only is this a personal padding of family wallets, it's a political party donation to a political entity. And I really think that Revenue Canada should be looking at the partisanship approach of this charity. Now, I know that the money was earmarked for the foundation, but that should not let off the charity, because that's just a shell game. This is why they call it a shell, corporation. Would you agree that this is just a political promotion of an ideology?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the connection with the school system in Canada, according to again what has been reported in the media, something like 16,000 public and private school has been reached out by the We Charity to recruit young students to join the We movement as volunteers and work for their program to turn them into, as you are rightfully pointing out, into social justice warriors. It is again a left-wing agenda. I mean, the whole terminology is about serving the poor children in the third world countries that I just mentioned, particularly in South Asia and Southeast Asia, and in East Africa, Kenya, well, has there been any media personnel going to these countries and actually, seeing what sort of work they have been doing, what is the report, what is the auditing that has been done? And I will not be surprised that eventually we will get the dirty facts coming out. Where there is smoke, there is fire. So whether the Kenyan government, whether the governments in India or Nepal, I don't have very much high hope for governments in Pakistan and in Afghanistan, maybe the government in Bangladesh. They will have their own independent investigation to find out, where did the money go, who are involved in it. But coming back to Canada, here we have a situation, Robert, when this story breaks. The money was being awarded to We Charity, and when the story breaks and the questions are asked, whether due diligence had been heard, and We Charity comes out and speaks about or informs that among the recipients of its money as compensation for work done for We Charity went to Margaret Trudeau, went to Sophie Trudeau, went to Alexander Trudeau, all within the family of Justin Trudeau, that the finance minister, Bill Morneau, had gone on all paid for tourism with We Charity, I believe, in Kenya and in Bolivar or Ecuador in South America. And then he comes up and says, he had misreported in his own finances that he had not paid for, or he had understood wrongly that that he would have been billed, and so he admitted that he's going to pay back something like $41,000 to the charity. These are not small amounts of money. And Bill Murnau's own family, I believe his two daughters are in some ways involved with the charity. Then as further discussion take place, we find out more stories coming out from within the organization about how it is run, and words that have been used as the environment within the organization, especially for the people who are working for the organization, is extremely toxic and deplorable. So here you have an organization that is engaged in some sort of a humanitarian affair, and its own people anonymously, because of the non-disclosure agreement they've had to sign in getting whatever job they were working for, talking about a highly toxic environment inside the company. Then we know and hear that the company is not only engaged in charity, but it has also got a real estate empire in downtown Toronto. And as all of these things bubbles to the surface, the hard questions are not being asked. And when the hard question at least was being raised in the condition of a parliamentary shutdown, which is amazing. Here we have a country where the parliament is shut down, all on the pretext of COVID-19, coronavirus, and yet the government is doing business as usual in the case of handing out money. You know, I mean, we have blown our deficit and debt into astronomical figure. We are now pretty much, our debt and deficit is way above our GDP, or headed in that direction. So all of this, we, the Canadian people, will be paying for years and years to come. And yet there is no accountability, there's no transparency. The little that we have had in the parliament, or through this sort of electronic arrangement by the parliament, subcommittee hearing, that too was shut down because you have the NDP leader, Mr. Jagmeet Singh, who, along with the Liberals, have gone to say that no further inquiry needs to be done to find out and to make transparent what has happened. And so I come back to the question that we are faced with, Robert, that are we a country being run as a crime syndicate? Because this is not the only issue, Robert. This is the third time that the Prime Minister has been referred to the Ethics Commissioner. It was the first time was with the Aga Khan, and his taking private trips, all paid for by Aga Khan, who is the spiritual leader, and you might also say the political leader of the Ismaili Muslims. And there is quite a significant amount of Ismaili Muslims in Canada, even though in the total population of Muslims around the world, the Ismaili Muslims are a very small minority, something like 15 million people, but there is quite a number in Canada, and that's a story that we can also dig deep into, of the connection with the Aga Khan and what has been happening with the Laurentian elite, the Liberals, the Conservative, the Aga Khan. Then you have this story just before the election last year, which was again buried as a result of the election. I'm referring to SNC Lavalin, which was one of the huge story that we did not go deep enough. The Prime Minister was not held accountable. It was not simply a matter of a Quebec firm that had fallen out of sync with the law about doing business abroad, but there were very substantive allegations that could be and would have been proven in the court if it had gone to the court, about crimes against humanity, that is the former Libyan government of Gaddafi was engaged in, crimes against humanity, the United Nations operation for regime change in Libya, and the involvement of SNC-Lavalin with that notorious government of Muammar Gaddafi. So you had that one. In both those two issues, the Aga Khan and the SNC-Lavalin affair, the ethics commissioner came down with the fact that, or with the judgment that the prime minister was in violation of the issues of ethics. And two, there should have been a strikeout, but now we have a third. And in all of this, there is a pattern, Robert. The pattern is what we have all come to know, those of us who have been following both the American politics and now the Canadian politics. It is for pay to play. It is the way money is circulated in a closed loop circle between those in government, those into elected office, and they then dealing with money, transferring money, awarding contracts to players with whom they have contact with and who have, parceled out money to the people who are making the decision, as in this case, Justin Trudeau, with pay to play, giving money to We Charity, and We Charity then having Justin Trudeau's own family, including Bill Monroe's family, within their own scheme of doing business, in this case with the federal government. So this leads to very, very serious question about where we are as a country and who is looking after the citizens and the taxpayer. And it seems to be there's nobody, because it seems to be that all the political parties in the parliament are in a closed loop circle. They will only play and dig deep enough so that they can throw mud on the other guy, but not go deeper enough to show how, in fact, the whole system has been rigged up against the people, which is what your opening remarks were. That goes all the way back to the family compact and the morphing of the Laurentian elite. And I would also then point out that this is not something that is only with Justin Trudeau and his Liberal. If we explore it, we go back. Here we have what is happening right now and has happened. The Aga Khan, the SNC-Lavalin, the We Charity business throws back to the 1990s. With the previous Liberal government, the majority government of Jean Chrétien, in the middle is the interim of the Harper government and the Conservative. So you go back to the 1990s, you have Jean Chrétien involved in Schwanigate, which was his own personal scandal. His purchase of a hotel, the Grand Maire, in his constituency, which he wanted to parcel off, and I believe he sold it to somebody he knew within his own circle, who needed then the money to renovate the business, and the approach made to, I believe, the Bank of Canada, and with the connection of the Prime Minister's office, either the money was released or some small amount of money was released. But that was a scandal, and it was all happening at the time when Canada was going through the most trying circumstances of the second referendum that the Lucien Bouchard government had called for, which was on separation, 1995. So you had the Schwanigate scandal, and then to deal with the referendum, what then later on emerged was the trafficking of money, again, pay to play, preferred treatment to their preferred media outlets, that is Jean Chrétien and the Liberals, that became the ad scam scandal. And the ad scam scandal then led to the pressures brought upon within the Liberal caucus on Jean Chrétien to step down, which he eventually did, handing the reins of power to Paul Martin, who then called the Gomery Commission, appointed Justice Gomery from the Quebec Superior Courts to look into the ad scam scandal. And by the time the report came out, it was almost a who's who of Jacques Chrétien and the liberals that were involved in the scheme of trafficking money by paying out money to various media outlets who then just turned the money around and gave it back to the liberal in Quebec and the Liberal Party organization. And so the Gomery scandal blew up in the face of Paul Martin. And when he called the election in 2004, he came back with a minority government, which then fell in 2006. And the 2006 election was called, and then you had the first minority government of Stephen Harper. So we see here a pattern. Not that, I mean, the liberal behavior in this matter, I mean, Jacques Chrétien, the Schwanigate, the ASCAM scandal now with Justin Trudeau, is absolutely egregious. It's out in your face, it is, they can do what they can do and get away with until, they cannot get away with because the stink is so high. And then there is the Laurentian B team that steps in, which is the progressive conservatives. They step in. In the case of Harper, the merger had taken place, so it's the Conservative Party. And now we have again the same action taking place, and Justin Trudeau's father was not exempt from scandals of similar nature. Though he himself, I cannot recall that Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau himself was directly involved in any money laundering scheme. But there was scandal in terms of appointments that was made, payback in terms of political favors that was done, which led to the whole, in a sense, the smell that rose up in 1984 during the election that led to Brian Mulroney becoming the prime minister, taking power from John Turner after Pierre Trudeau had stepped down. So, where do we go from here? We have a situation that unless this closed loop is broken by people electing a political party and representatives who stand outside of this family compact, this Laurentian elite, and actually seek to defend the interests of Canada and the interests of the people, we are more or less a country that has become a banana republic, or has
Yes.
been a banana republic for a long time,
And,
except that we don't speak about it.
and the fact that, as you've described before, the Conservative opposition is nothing more than a spare wheel on this vehicle of government which is going in the direction to the left, Canada's B team, they're ineffectual. The RCMP seems to be ineffectual. They're rife with scandal as well, and always have been. And that leaves us with the CBC, the CTV Global, the media, who, when there's a slightest hint of scandal with conservatives, they just beat it to death, like the Mike Duffy supposed scandal during an election period. Turned out that it wasn't a scandal, not convicted of anything. He's suing the RCMP now, or appealing his lawsuit to the RCMP. And but the media, they're supposed to be the fourth estate, looking out for the interests of all and truth. And what they've done is they've been bought off by the Liberal government. There's no hope with the Conservatives. They are part of the problem. It doesn't seem like there's any hope with the RCMP unless some good cops step forward or there's a change in leadership. So we're left with the media. CBC, CTV, Global, they're all in the Liberals' pockets. So I guess it's down to you and me. It's down to the rebel media, True North, other independent bloggers and vloggers and reporters and researchers to ferret out this kind of corruption, because I don't see anything happening soon when it comes to those people who are charged with the duty of finding out the truth. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. My thoughts are similar to you, and the problem or the dangers that the social media people in the social media are facing, that is the alternative media are facing um, lately, is um, effort made by the people in authority, power, and political parties in Ottawa, sending out a legal notice to shut them down by threatening them with libel suit, strategic law being applied against them. We have instances now, quite a few to mention. Of course, Ezra Levant and the rebel media has been shut off from many location or access to information. There have been a number of instances where rebel media folks have been turned out from reporting on Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party. Um, but strategic lawsuits have been thrown at um, individuals. I don't want to mention them because there are cases going on against them, or they're facing a situation where the case might go into court, where people like Erin O'Toole running for the leadership of the Conservative Party, or Peter MacKay running for the leadership of the Conservative Party, have tried to silence any discussion of their association with people who need to be questioned.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, the relationship with people who are connected with directly or indirectly through the mosque organization with the Muslim Brotherhood and their various institutions worldwide and in Canada.
And so, I mean, so it's not just the liberals. It's not just the liberals. Here we have the elite
No, I'm
conservatives.
talking about the conservative, but the liberals have been doing. Liberals
No,
have
that's what I'm
elected them.
saying. It's not just the liberals. We have, you've just given a couple of examples of how conservatives use every
Yeah,
tool at their disposal to silence dissent. And so where are we
absolutely.
left? I mean, Jagmeet Singh and the NDP are a lost cause. All we have
Yeah,
are small voices out there like Maxime Bernier saying 3 strikes, you're out to Justin Trudeau,
yes,
but that's not picked up by the media. They
no.
won't question him.
And the question, this has been a long-standing issue that we have privately talked about, the question about free speech and monopolies. The giant tech companies now that have, or basically the platform that they provide through the social media, whether it is Google, whether it is YouTube, Yahoo, etc. They can immediately, and they have, deplatform people and censored people, and they're doing it regularly now. So again, we are in that situation where transparency is becoming more and more less transparent. I mean, there is a whole issue. How do people communicate so that the public can know what actually is happening? And so here we have, in our own country, in Canada, a situation where the prime minister is not going to be forthcoming. He will not come into the parliament. He's not. The parliament is not open. There is no substantive question answer that is taking place. But the government is being run in the name of the people. Appointments are being made. Contracts are being signed. Uh, Deficit financing is taking place, and yet there is no accountability. Let me go back to the case of the Aga Khan. I mean, this is a long-standing relationship, which is again pay to play, one might say, and has family connection. I mean, it all goes back to Pierre-Éliott Trudeau in the early 1970s, with the Aga Khan, the current Aga Khan, who's the leader, as I said, the spiritual leader of the Ismaili community. And it was the relationship between Pierre-Éliott Trudeau and the Aga Khan, who was then a much younger man, almost half a century ago. That relationship led to Pierre-Éliott Trudeau opening the door in the early 1970s, 1973, 1970. I think the crisis came about in 72, 73, and then later on, Pierre Trudeau made special effort to rescue or provide Canada as a haven for the East Indians in East Africa, particularly in Uganda, when Idi Amin began the rampage of torture, abuse, murder, seizing the properties and businesses of East Asians, East Indians, who had settled in East Africa going back to the British colonial days into early 19th century. And Pierre Trudeau came in the right time in the sense that he rescued these people by opening the door to Canada, and Canada received a whole lot of East Indians from East Africa, from Kenya, from Uganda, from Tanzania, and a large number of them were people of Ismaili background, that is, people who take the Aga Khan as the spiritual leader. And they have been a very successful community in Canada. Once they settled in Canada, they have been extremely successful in terms of business, education. They are a very well-knit, well-connected group of people among themselves. They help each other. And so they established well. But it is a relationship that was forged first with the Liberals through Pierre Trudeau, and now his son is there. But it was also a relationship that was forged with the Conservatives. And it reached its apex when Stephen Harper gave the honorary membership to the honorary citizenship to the Aga Khan. I believe it was in 2010. So this relationship is you might say, a Laurentian elite relationship with a particular community and its spiritual and political head. And they have found it to be a very useful relationship. I mean, we can go down again into the weeds, but lack of time, and so I'll hold back. But this relationship has been rewarded by both the Liberals and the Conservatives to the community. I mean, appointments were made by Jean Chrétien, the first Muslim woman, that is a Ismaili Muslim woman, appointed to the Senate. A senator was made by Jean Chrétien. Mobin Jaffrey, I think her name is Mobin Jaffrey, from Vancouver, BC. She's still in the Senate. And the most recent appointment that has been made by Justin Trudeau to appoint this woman, who's a social activist, I believe, Salma Lakhani, as the incoming Lieutenant Governor General in Alberta. So there you see, again, a closed loop circle taking place, in one particular community. With the relationship. I mean, the first ethic violation on the case of Justin Trudeau was with the Aga Khan and his questionable visit to the island, his personal property in the Caribbean. And what transpired, we don't know, but something must have transpired. I mean, in these connections, there are a lot of money being paid out as developmental assistance to the Aga Khan Foundation. And the Aga Khan Foundation, like the We Charity, is involved in various UN-led developmental activities in Africa, in South Asia, in northern Pakistan. So these are very interesting issues, but these have never been, probed as it should be probed, because the Canadian public should know about where their money is going and under what pretext they are going and what favors are being done. Whether the favors are to be approved of or disapproved of has to be one that can be discussed in a public arena transparently, but none of that is available. Same thing happened with SNC-Lavalin. And now I think, and I believe, that what little that we know and as we have followed, I mean, you have the case of Michelle Douglas, the director of We Charity resigning and stepping down as the discussion began on what had happened. Why did she resign? What led to her resignation? What is being kept away from the public information? These need to be known. If we truly had a government that is a parliament that exercises independence and looked after the interests of the people, then, especially given the fact that it's a minority government, we would have had a commission established in the parliament, an all-party commission established in the parliament to investigate We Charity and dig deep and find out, call everyone on there connected with We Charity to come and tell their story, what they know, and how much do they know, and what has exactly been happening. Now, to wrap it up, I might also say, that these are very, very difficult issues that we are faced with, but there are simultaneously investigations taking place in America. And we can expect, as we go down the road before the election, or if President Trump is reelected after the election, the investigation from the Attorney General's office, the DOJ, will proceed. And I'm referring to the issue of Jeffrey Epstein, who apparently committed suicide, but people are not sure about whether it was a suicide or a murder while he was being held in prison, a high security prison in New York. And his girlfriend, who was his pimp, Ghislaine Maxwell, who was arrested a month or so ago and is now being held in prison. And the suspicion of people in a long list of people, and highly placed people, celebrities, politicians, including member of the royal family. I'm referring to Prince Andrew. What were the relationship with Jeffrey Epstein? What was happening? Where were they going? And as that investigation proceeds, perhaps we will know not only more about what has happened in the United States and with the people around there, people like the Clinton, but there might be people involved from Canada. And one will have to wonder whether our media will do its job, that is, will trace out and go and dig deep if there is evidence that comes out that there is a Canadian connection in here. Because the very preliminary information that we have in the public domain suggests that the connection of the Kielburger brothers with some of the international celebrities and politicians and media personalities like Oprah Winfrey or Harvey Weinstein leads to deeper and deeper question of where we are headed.
Yes, indeed. It's a very wide and deep swamp in both of our countries. Thank you again, Salim. We'll talk again about this, I'm sure, in the future.
Thank you so much.